Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Kinked, the Wellbeing Podcast with no content boundaries. My name's Georgie, and on today's episode I speak with Steve Lefebvre about a type of support group called Presence Circles or Heart Circles. So I'll let you dive into that one, but please let me know what you think of the podcast. I love connecting with you guys. Thank you. Today we're going to focus on your experience in communities and also your wealth of experience holding presence circles. And I'd really like for us to start by you just explaining some of the communities that you have been a part of and how that's naturally progressed you into holding presence circles, if that is the way things have gone.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you today, George. And, I'd like to begin with just a little bit of my own background in that I am a coach and a mentor. I've been working with people and couples and individuals, and also on the corporate side with CEOs, managing directors, and executive teams, all of which are very relevant to what we call a circle and community formation. Also, I've been involved and got involved with community and circles in the beginning just by being born into a large family. I had 5 other brothers and sisters, 6 of us with mom and dad. So I started out in a circle.
Yeah.
This conversation today is a little bit different from the point of view that we're really talking about conscious circles or heart circles or presence circles, which is the coming together of groups of people to consciously expand their consciousness and to share, to be heard, and to be seen. And I have a great passion in that because I feel it's really, really important today to get that out into the world and how these things are formed and what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why do you think it's so important for people to come in circle now more than ever?
Well, I think that we've just come out of, at least here in New Zealand and certainly in the rest of the world, are still very engaged in this pandemic that is going on. And in addition to that, we see protests that are going on all over the planet. And what is at the root of this? It's certainly people feeling that they are not being heard, not being seen. There's very little conversation going on between what we call the left and the right. And because of the pandemic, people have been shut in their homes, and one of the good things that has come out, people are beginning to communicate a little bit more. I mean, the advent of Zoom has allowed people to connect all over the world. And so for people that are looking for more intimacy, they want to share what they're feeling because so much is coming up now, and being able to really be heard. It's just so important. And so yeah, I mean that's a really key element why it's so particular right now. Yeah.
I think it's really important and prevalent that you mentioned that a lot of emotions are surfacing for people, since they've been locked away, sometimes on their own, and often people don't know how to deal with those emotions rising. So I guess having a presence circle and being able to connect with people, would be vital for those people who are quite lonely, in these times.
Yeah, I mean, I think understand that when we speak about a circle, I mean, since mankind has been on the earth, there has been a need to communicate.
Yeah.
And I think that especially when you look back at indigenous peoples all over the planet, there was always a circle of elders, often a woman's circle, where it was safe to express what was going on because it was needed to find solutions to challenges and problems that existed. And the part about having it be safe is really, really important so that authentic communication can happen, which is just not a common practice, even within families, because there's just so much trauma attached to sharing authentically, truthfully, what's on our minds, because we're so used to being judged, we're so used to being made wrong, that we tend to hold that back. So one of the primary purposes of a heart circle or a presence circle is so that people can create an environment of safety, so that they're able to express that without being judged. And so the cultivation of that environment is key and really, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I've been learning recently is that often people aren't out to communicate with you, listen and then communicate. People just want to get their piece in. Does that sometimes come across when holding a presence circle? And if that is the case, how do you persuade people to actually listen?
The core principles in any real conscious heart circle is learning how to listen.
Yeah.
And most people, especially I'll put in here men, we tend to often respond without really, really hearing. And so cultivating that ability to compassionately listen, which is listening not just with our ears, but with our whole being and with our hearts, so that we're feeling as much as just hearing what's being said.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that is when we're speaking, we generally speak from our heads rather than our hearts. And so the ability to share what's really going on inside opens up a whole Pandora's box of challenges. We talk often about what does it take to be vulnerable? What does it take to be authentic? Where we're able to speak to each other from a place of our truth. And that is why these heart circles, presence circles, are so important. It's cultivating that safety that begins to allow people to explore that ability. Because that takes time. It just doesn't happen overnight.
Sure.
I've been working in a men's group here in New Zealand for 10 years. And it's taken many, many years to get to that level of safety. But when you do, when you reach that point where you can share whatever's going on in you, it's a very, very powerful healing opportunity. And I think that when you watch and see what's going on the planet right now, that it is so vital that we learn how to listen to each other,
Yeah.
And I think that when that happens, even when you may have diametrically opposed views on something, we can at least begin to understand why, what created that, so that we can, if nothing else, we can just agree to disagree, but at least we understand each other.
I totally relate to that, because often we kind of cultivate this environment of like a safety net of people that agree with us and, agree to hold the same values and political views, when actually it's quite important to listen to the other side of the story and have, be able to cultivate a proper decision on things.
Yeah, you're beginning to see the effects of this in politics. It's always gone on in business, where I use the term the egoic mind that tends to create the outcomes, where it's you do as I say and like it. Whereas what we're talking about now is really being able to bring in discourses from others that don't have the same view, because that's where more enlightened perspective that can come from. You can work together to find the highest thought. So if you have a group of people, and especially in a business or a political context where you have a real serious issue, challenge, where you're getting different input, and you're all, the goal of the circle, of the board, of the group, of the team, is to find the highest thought. It's not just my egoic saying this is how it's going to be. And when that is the charge of the group, then magic can happen. Solutions will be found. And but you have to be vulnerable to make that happen. You have to be willing to set your ego aside. And that's what the Presence Circle invites. And as you get to know each other, and as you begin to feel safer, when you begin to realize that you're not being judged, you can show up authentically, and you learn.
Yeah.
You learn. And that's the thing that has been so helpful and so profound in many of the circles that I'm currently involved with. And I think that most everyone in those circles would tell you the same thing, that the value in their life to be able to be with a group of people that are accepting of hearing me, and it's from my point of view what the world needs. I mean, more of that is going to be very helpful.
So when a presence circle is created and the people in that circle have been chosen or decided to come along, would you say that is the group of people in that circle, and because you've got to develop trust for one another and show that vulnerability, that other people wouldn't be invited, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that these kinds of circles are initially predicated by somebody or a couple of people that have an interest in a particular area, and that could be, like I mentioned, a men's group or a women's group. It could be a sewing class. It could be any number of Bible study. People have come together around a topic of which they have a passion for. It could be a book club. And then you set up some parameters, which are really important. The first one being values. Because if you just take, people can sit around and just gossip.
Yes.
Or they can just talk about stuff. Okay, so understand that when I'm speaking about a heart circle or presence circle, we're talking about people coming together that resonate, about wanting to do a self-inquiry, that they're wanting to further their own awakening. They're trying to really find out who they really are and to share their experiences, their feelings, their thoughts about things. So these circles don't tend to be frivolous. There are certainly lots and lots of groups coming together talking about many, many things. That's just how people are, and that's fine. But for those people that want to do more inner work and really want to come together and find the truth, hold the truth, share the truth, they'll create a sacred space. And that's what the Heart Circle is all about.
So you mentioned that, is there like a kind of hierarchy, or is there a leader of the group or someone who directs the conversation? How does that work?
Yeah, I think that that when people come together, these are discussions that are had. In the groups that I'm involved with now, there is no hierarchy. There is no leader. Everyone is a leader. So we make that understanding in the beginning. We have a definition of who we are, and sometimes that takes time to define. We have the ability to be open about how we're doing what we're doing. In the case of one particular group, we have what is the talking stick. Like in the Native American, and in fact many indigenous groups, they'll have, like the Native American had a peace pipe, and the pipe would be passed. And what that signifies is that when you're holding that sacred element, it keeps you in your heart. It keeps you in the authenticity of speaking the truth. And we all recognize that in that we're all leaders. We're all equal. And so that's how the groups that I'm involved in right now are functioning. But there are other groups that there is a facilitator. and he's the one that will lead, he's the one or she's the one that will make determinations about how things are. So that's going to be a group decision to make, you know.
Because I guess there must be some boundaries, and I guess when you get a group of people together, people can talk for forever. How does one kind of know when to?
Again, that's by agreement.
Yeah, okay.
It's, and it's especially size of the group. Like, in my experience, and I've been involved in groups like this for over 30 years, I find that when you get beyond 12 people, okay, it becomes cumbersome because you want to be able to have everybody share.
Yeah.
So, there's different ways of doing that. In one group where we start with a meditation. So we get everybody centered and everybody grounded. We let go of what's happened up until that particular point in time. So we just do a meditation that gets us present. And then we do an initial round where everybody gets 1 or 2 minutes just to kind of share what's been going on for them within the last couple of weeks. It allows them to just get present and share, and you go around the whole group. And then you do another round, which then goes deeper. And then at that point, we'll allow each other to say what we need to say. We're all cognizant of the fact that we're not there telling stories. We're using I statements. We're not politicizing. We're speaking from our hearts. We're sharing what's going on. And in that next round, each person may have 4, 5, 6 minutes. Some people may have some kind of intense things going on. They may take more time.
Yeah.
So it's very organic in its process. But everybody's conscious that everyone needs to speak. And then we usually get 3 rounds in a 2.5-hour meeting. So we're cognizant of that. Sometimes other groups I've been in, it'll be open. There'll be a prompt. We'll speak to a particular topic, and it's just an open conversation. So you can do it in different ways that makes it work for you. But the point is, you want to be able to have each individual be heard and be seen, and people that everyone else is listening to the one person that's speaking. We have found that to be the most effective way in the group, so that everybody gets, it's important. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be seen and heard. It's a very powerful healing process. And then you can ask for feedback if that person wants some feedback. And the feedback is about being able to share what you just heard from a personal context. Mm. So it's, again, I statements. We're not trying to fix somebody. This is not a therapy group. We're just, if they want feedback, you can say how that affected you, what you just heard, or what it might have brought up for you that might be helpful for them to hear. So it's being very mindful and respectful of time. Normally, whoever's hosting that particular meeting will kind of keep an eye on that. So if somebody's getting off in hand, there'll be a sign. They'll say, tighten it up a little bit. So it's organic in its process, but it's about having respect for everybody, and it always works out really well.
You've been doing these for a long time, and with the successes, there must be some, I don't want to use the word failures, but, pros and cons of circles. Well,
this is interesting because it's also another fundamental reason for these, because in a group over a period of time, you will develop intimacy. Into me, I see. And in that process, shadow, resistance, the stuff that we have inside that's challenging. It's our fear, our depression, our despair, our addictions. These are all going to arise. Yeah. We have a saying that love brings up everything unlike itself for the purpose of healing and release. And although we're not a therapy group, we give permission, and the environment is such that we allow this to come out. And just the sharing of it can help people through it. We all acknowledge that we each need to do our own work, but we can be helpful in being a mirror, in being supportive and nurturing as well as challenging to each other. And this is where a heart circle or presence circle begins to emerge into community. Because community is the longer term, everyday living this out. And in the shadow part, the fear, the anger, whatever might be coming up and arising, you're not going through that by yourself anymore. You're now having people that really care about you to be supportive. So when that stuff comes up, it in fact is the portal to the answer to why the depression exists, why the addiction is there, why the pain is there.
Yeah.
You know, and culturally, as we've spoke previously, we've mastered avoiding the pain, avoiding what's going on in us. And therefore, when you're given permission and safety to voice it, you now have an opportunity to get through it. And that is probably the most powerful reason for creating circles and heart circles, because it does powerfully heal. On one side, the other thing it does is it also allows you to emerge into creative spaces that we've been held back to do. Because the thoughts of I'm not good enough, I'm not wanted, whatever it might be, the circle helps push you through that. So now we can support each other to do some really magical things. You know, whether that might be writing a book, or it might be learning to surf, or it might be whatever. I mean, that's another really powerful aspect of the circle, and the powerful aspect of community is supporting each other to be the absolute best we can be, rather than, generally speaking, most of us have been put down through our childhood by social issues, limitations, etc. This does the exact opposite. It just lifts you into being able to be the absolute best you can be.
And how long would you say it takes for a circle to come and feel comfortable speaking with each other? I guess every circle must be different, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people just show up and can be there immediately. Others may take years. And, you know, the conversation is, why do some people there all very quickly, and why do others take years to get there? And that goes to how we were brought up, our family, our background, so many different things.
Sure.
And when you begin to cultivate that safety, which can take time, it can literally take years to develop the depth that someone feels safe. And so there's no judgment about it, you know. You show up as you can, authentically, and to be as honest as you're capable of being. And that is what these circles are all about, really.
I imagine once you become familiar and start attending presence circles weekly, or however they are presented, that the learnings and teachings become a part of your life and kind of integrate themselves into your life. Would that be something that you would say is true?
Yep. I think that another gift of a presence circle is that when you begin to start experiencing yourself showing up authentically, where you have no fear of saying and being who you are, and what you can begin to start expanding that circle until that's just who you are in all cases, in all situations. And there's an incredible freedom that comes from being able to just simply be who you are, and not be subject any longer to a lot of limiting thoughts that we have been brought up and have cultivated in socially and within our families, etc. And so one of the great gifts is that ability to just be in the world simply as who you are, no fear, and just being authentic. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Steve.
It's been a delight. Thank you so much, Georgie.